I throw people in the deep end. I give them challenges that seem to them to be insurmountable at the time of giving them the challenge. But those that meet the challenge or even exceed it end up progressing within the organization. So, very much, hey, throw you into the deep end, learn to swim. If you are sinking, I'll provide you with some armbands. But if you still can't swim, you're going to sink. But if you can, right, then you're on the fast track for growth.
Hi, I'm Navin Valrani, and I'm really excited to be here today. They say there's no formula for success, but what if there is? After countless conversations with entrepreneurs, I've noticed a pattern. Now, I'm on a mission to break it down and figure out exactly what makes a startup thrive. In this podcast, we'll explore the key ingredients like education, funding, mentorship, luck, and more that contribute to an entrepreneur's success. We'll ask founders to weigh in on what factors matter the most in their cases, so you can focus on what really moves the needle in your own journey. Ready to dive in? Let's dive into the entrepreneur's equation. So, I'm very excited for today's conversation, but because we get to have a chat with someone who proves that entrepreneurship and education really can go hand in hand. Dr. Navin Valrani is the Vice Chairman and Group Managing Director of Shirawi Group and CEO of Arcadia Education, a venture he's spearheaded in Dubai. Under his leadership, Arcadia launched the region's first junior MBA program for primary school students. Recognized among the Middle East top business leaders, Dr. Naveen is as passionate about giving back as he is about growing businesses. He created a scholarship fund and raises millions for educational causes. In this episode, we'll dive into what drives his success equation. So, hi, Naveen. I always like to begin understanding entrepreneurial journeys with childhood. So tell me a little bit about your childhood.
So firstly, hi Serena, and thank you for that amazing introduction. It was making me blush as you were speaking. I hope I meet the expectations of the introduction during this podcast. To tell you a little bit about my childhood, I'm a product of this wonderful city of Dubai. And I would have actually been born here, but at that time, and we were talking, way back 1971, my mother and my parents didn't feel that the hospital facilities at the time were good enough for my mom to deliver in Dubai. So she actually flew back to India. I was born in Bombay, and I came right back to Dubai, and I've been here ever since. And really, you mentioned luck in the introduction of your podcast. Luck has played such a huge role in my life, as it has in most people's lives. And, first and foremost, just being born into a family that really valued education, even at that time, right? So this is way, way back when, education, high school education was kind of a done thing. College education was voluntary. But for me and for my parents, my mom and my dad, education was and is a priority. And from the very get-go, I was put into a British nursery. My father was and is a big believer in the power of British education. And then that moved me into a British primary school known as DES, Dubai English Speaking School. And then I ended up in what is today one of the finest secondary schools outside of the UK, one of the finest secondary British schools known as Dubai College. And from Dubai College, I happened to again get into a top business school, the Boardroom School of Business, as part of the University of Pennsylvania. And I landed in the United States with pretty much with two suitcases and completely on my own, and spent my formative years in terms of going from being a teenager to being an adult at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Yeah, so that's sort of my childhood journey. I have great memories growing up, but education was always a priority. We took our schooling very, very seriously. We took our grades very, very seriously. And it was different in those days. Dubai was a simpler place, a smaller place, and we spent a lot of time as a family unit. Myself, my elder brother in those days, and then my younger brother came along when I was 4, and then it was really mom and dad. And really, the biggest lesson I took from that time was no matter what happened in those days, the weekend was Friday.
Oh,
Every Friday night, without fail. Actually, it was every Thursday night. So, the weekend being Friday. So every Thursday night, family dinner was sacred. We couldn't make any plans, and we would, mom, dad, my brothers and I would end up going for like a pizza, and we would top it off with a Baskin Robbins 31 flavor ice cream. And really those were and those are very precious memories for me, that time we spent together as a family unit growing up.
I mean, these family dinners were very sacred, right? So what were the conversations like? Was it focused on education, grades, or more laid back?
Partly, but it was much more laid back. It was everything from, humor to talking about sport uh, talking about, likes and dislikes. It was just being able, and it was really also taking lessons from both my mother and my father in terms of how, they led their lives and the struggles they went through. And those stories, and they stuck by me. I mean, the one thing I remember, anecdotally, is I remember finishing, completing a dinner. It was at a pizzeria in Dera, and we were walking from the pizzeria to the ice cream parlor, and my mom, and the topic was smoking. We were young, 8, 9, 10 years old, 3 brothers, and my mom said, "Promise me that you will never smoke in your entire life." And I was the only one of the 3 brothers that actually made that promise to her. Until today, I have kept that promise. So, I'm 54 years old and I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. So, these are the little stories that stick with you, and that get so ingrained in you, as you move through life. So again, what really formed who I am today were those childhood memories and the time I spent with my mother and father.
What about in school? Were you involved in many extracurriculars?
Yeah, so primary school, whatever there was, there was. I remember we played rounders. I don't know if you know what rounders
Oh,
is. It's a
yeah, I
very
do.
British sport. And rounders was like a sort of a junior version of softball. And that was fun. And then as we moved into secondary, really the two big sports in school were football for boys, were football and cricket. Football was the most and the most popular sport, still is in Dubai. But cricket was interesting because being from the Indian subcontinent, culturally, I could connect to cricket. So outside of school, I'd be playing a lot of cricket, and that eventually spilled over to inside of school, where there was a cricket team in Dubai College. I was part of it, and cricket was really a central part of my teenage years. Everything to do with cricket, whether it was watching cricket, playing cricket, still is actually. And so very involved, was in the cricket team. We had 4 houses. I don't know if you know what that is, but British schools typically have houses. It's a vertical pastoral care system, like Harry Potter, right? 4 houses,
Oh, yeah.
Gryffindor and Slytherin and the rest. So I was part of, and our houses in Dubai College were named after adventurers. So I was part of the Cousteau House. So I did participate in a lot of house activities. Getting points was always a thing. I played a musical instrument, I played a guitar, and you did things that would enable your house to get points.
Were you very
So yeah,
competitive?
I was very involved with the school, but also, cricket was just a central part of my life.
Were you very competitive?
So I think, if I'm honest with myself, uh, I was competitive. I think I'm probably more competitive. I became more competitive as I entered the workplace. But it's tough to answer that question because you just don't know what benchmark you're comparing yourself against. I think, human nature, human beings, we are competitive individuals. Self-interest often drives many of our decisions. But I I was competitive. I wanted to do my very best. I wanted to be the best at my game. But I think there was a moment when I went, or a phase when I went from being sort of accepting of who I am to being a striver and saying I wanted more. And it happened sort of right towards the end of high school. So probably at the age you're at right now, right? Right at that point, there was a teacher that came along and he instilled in me that belief that I could do it. And I actually never looked back since then. I've never ever allowed um, my mind or time to be a limiting factor in what I've achieved today. So even the pivot into education was something that was almost thrown to me as a challenge and one that I accepted and one that, at the age of mid 40s, resetting your life, going from being in the corporate world to being an educator, that was quite a challenge and one that I welcomed and one that I pursued.
What made you trust this teacher? What did the teacher say to you?
It wasn't so much what he said to me, it was more the actions that he did. I had the benefit of, and I still do, the benefit of having a very, very switched on elder brother. And his name is Sumit, and he was an economist at heart. And he had been through the A-level economics program. At that time, I was doing A-level economics. Sumit had already graduated from school, having completed the program, and Sumit handed me his notes, his class notes. And I remember going through them before every class, before every econ class, I would read through his notes. I don't think he even knows this till this day. And I I read his notes and I would go into class really prepared. So I'd be answering all the questions that the teacher would throw out at the class. And then I guess I became so good at that that the teacher one day came in and said, Naveen, you're going to teach the class. And I was this shy, in those days, 17-year-old boy who was like, I could barely say two words in a sort of public environment. I was the kind of boy, I don't know if you're like this, but when my parents had guests over, I'd sneak out of the house. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I do not want to enter this living room. So I'd sneak out from the back door and hide and, do those sorts of things. So suddenly the teacher says, you're going to teach the class. And I stood up, took my notes, which were in effect notes off my brother's notes, and taught the class. And he really gave me a big pat on my back. He subsequently awarded me the economics prize, which is sort of a British thing. You get prize giving in school for subject specific prizes. And yeah, I never ever looked back. And then I knew I could do it. I just needed to believe. So sometimes it's just, one episode, one incident that just has such a profound effect on your life. And that for me it was that.
Wow. I don't think I'd have that kind of confidence. But what gave you the key to confidence in that moment?
So, you're thrown in the deep end. And, funnily enough, that's been my philosophy even in the way I run my organizations. I throw people in the deep end. I give them challenges that seem to them to be insurmountable at the time of giving them the challenge. But those that meet the challenge or even exceed it end up progressing within the organization. So, very much, hey, throw you into the deep end, learn to swim. If you are sinking, I'll provide you with some armbands. But if you still can't swim, you're going to sink. But if you can, right, then you're on the fast track for growth. And really that's what it comes down to. So for me, again, throwing me in the deep end was really what that episode was about. When you're forced to do it, when you have your back against the wall, when the teacher says you are getting up and teaching this class, um, then you've got to make that decision. Are you going to do this or not?
Yeah. So you went to college at UPenn, and you've been very active at UPenn since then. What was that experience like?
Oh, I cannot say enough about Penn and its influence on me. I know I've done 4 degrees at Penn.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
so I didn't stop at 1 degree. I did 4 degrees at Penn. I'm the kid who never left school. I'm often known as the boy who never left school. My most recent degree was in 2023, where I completed my research and published and got my doctorate. But I basically never left school. So I did 4 degrees at Penn, one MBA at London Business School, and a number of other things along the way. And really, for me, Penn was America. I had never been to the United States till I got to Penn. So I landed in Philadelphia. The flight was Dubai, Paris, Paris, Philly. Landed there with 2 suitcases, no parents. Made my way to my dorm. There was a friend of my brother's who dropped me off and said bye. And that was it. I was once again in the deep end, this time really in the deep end. And I had decided that this was my chance to hit the reset button. And it was, that whatever I felt was not right in my life. And when you're a teenager, there's silly things that you think are not right in your life. But yeah, those mattered to me at the time, and I decided to correct them. And yeah, I ended up so everything I experienced at Penn, even if it was not connected to Penn, if it was connected to the broader United States, something as simple as Thanksgiving break, I attributed that to my time at Penn. I made some of my best friends at Penn. I experienced American culture very closely. I had some very, very close friends who were very warm. They were like family to me while I was away. I met their parents. I broke bread with them. And it was really a very, very special time for me in just learning how to be an independent adult.
Sorry. Was Penn your dream school? And what made you want to go ahead with all these degrees?
So Penn was my dream school. It was my number one choice. I didn't think I'd get in. I actually got into Northwestern, and I had begun filling up housing forms for Northwestern. In those days, there was no internet, so you'd get your decision by post. And then the Penn decision came, and I was just surprised. And then yeah, I was suddenly going to Philadelphia. And yeah, so what made me do 4 degrees at Penn? Quite honestly, being in a formal class environment makes me feel a lot younger. It still brings out the kid in me. And for me, that's important. It's important for me to maintain the child within me. And it allows me to connect to other children. It allows me to connect to other students. A funny story for you. Last year, again, I've never said this to too many people, at least not in a public forum such as this podcast. But I registered to take the ACT, and this is no jokes. I picked my center. I registered to take the SAT. I had to have to upload your profile picture on your SAT ticket.
How
So
did you
I
do
put
that?
so I put on a sweatshirt. I took a picture of myself, pretend, saying I got to look like a student, and registered legally. Put my age, everything down, and I even got an admission, a test ticket. And then I get an email from College Board asking me, "Why do you want to take the SAT? Like, what's your reason?" Because obviously I'm a 50 plus year old, take wanting, registering to take the ACT. Meanwhile, between the time I registered and this email, I had already started prepping. So I had downloaded the SAT app, sorry, the Khan Academy app. Had paid for the fee for the SAT test prep. Was doing exercises on Khan Academy, and really, doing practice tests and all the rest of it. And then so I said, I answered the email saying, I want to know what my students feel like when they take the test. Like, I want to experience the test for myself. And I got a reply saying that we only allow students who are applying to college to take the SAT.
You didn't
You
end up
cannot
doing
take the
that.
SAT just because you feel like it. And I think I'm forbidden from ever registering from the SAT now, College Board. But what that experience did for me is it actually taught me the test prep on Khan Academy. So I went through it, and I often, give guidance to my students that look, if you can go through the test prep on Khan Academy and take it seriously, you're in pretty good shape, right? So those are the kind of things that I do, and the reason behind them is because A, I want to feel like a kid, and B, I want to be able to connect to my students and experience what they're going through, at least partly. So really, that's the motivation between me knocking out these degrees.
So is that how you build strong relationships?
With students, relationships matter. Great teachers build great relationships with students. And really, for me, it's about being able to connect students. And that connection happens through language. So your generation says terms that weren't used in my generation. So for example, something just as simple as if you were to ask a bunch of friends for dinner, right? Or to meet up for a movie, you will send a message that will be something like, "Hey, you guys down for watching Top Gun?" Right? That would be a message. In our time, we would say, "Are you up for watching Top Gun?" We won't use the word down. "Are you up for this?" Right? So we, at some point between my generation, your generation, we went from "Are you up for this?" to "Are you down for this?" Right? And I don't know quite when that happened, but it's something I use now. So I always say, "Hey, you guys down for this?" Right? My generation looks at me like, "What are you on? Like, what are you talking about?"
Yeah,
Right?
my dad does
Uh,
that too.
yeah. So it's important to be able to connect to my students through language, through understanding the anxieties that exist in today's world, which did not exist in my time. To start with, we had no social media, and to really understand the journey of what a student is going through. And it's not easy. So often you'd hear parents connecting their child's current context to when they went to school, right? "Oh, when we were going to school, this is how it was done." But what I think sometimes parents fail to understand is that you're not going to school, right? Someone else is going to school. It's your kid. And it's a very different set of pressures. So I try my very best to actually have mentors that are younger than me. So what my students don't know, but they will know after this podcast, is I learn just as much from them as they do from me. And together we make a great team. And really that's how I approach my relationships with my students.
How do you tell them to deal with pressure?
Yeah, pressure is something. Look, pressure. So, firstly, it does get easier, right? That I can assure you. Pressure is one thing that you can be assured of will never completely go away. It'll come and go in waves. It'll have ups and downs. You'll have high pressure and low pressure environment. Now we even wear these whoops to see how much stress we're under on a minute to minute basis. That's another way I connect with you. Wear what you guys are wearing. So, so. Um, the statement that I feel helps or helped me the most and helps students the most is that whatever you're going through, as stressful as it seems, I can assure you one thing, it is temporary. That's the one guarantee I can give you. This will pass, right? Now, when it'll pass, I don't know. How long it'll take, I don't know. Will you be a better person at the end of it? Yes, because you would have experienced this. So the next time something similar comes along, you'd be able to deal with it a lot better. But it will pass. And guess what? No matter what happens, no matter the outcome of this situation, I will always be there for you. I'm not going away. Right? And that is the message I like to give my students that I am a constant in your life. You could go and do whatever you want, you could mess up big time, but Naveen is not going to go away. Okay? And sometimes parents want me to, that's happened quite rarely, but say that, look, Naveen, can you be tough? And can you be even as tough as saying, I'm going to pull support? I never agree to that. I never ever say that I'm going to pull support from a kid. And I think, every child is unique, and this is, obviously this is cliche, but they truly are unique, and every child has very special qualities. And it is my job to find out what those qualities are and how to bring them out and how to make the child or the student feel truly valued in what they're doing. So really, that's how I deal with pressure.
That's very comforting. What was your first work experience like? I've had many entrepreneurs that have worked in Starbucks or as a glass collector. What did you do?
So my first work experience was an internship at KPMG Dubai, and my I was an intern. So, but the head of the organization was a man named Vijay Malhotra. Yeah, I'm still in touch with him. He's about my dad's age, and the one thing I noticed is whenever he walked into work, everyone would call him Vijay. Everyone, from the receptionist to the office boy, everyone. And that's something that was instilled in me. I do not allow people to call me sir or Mr. Valrani or Dr. Valrani. I say, call me by my first name. The students that I teach outside of my schools, I actually ask them to call me by my first name. The students that are part of my mentoring program, they call me by my first name. Some people feel uncomfortable, but I say, look, call me by my first name because I believe these titles that we give individuals, Mr., Mrs., Doctor, whatever it is, Your Highness, they create barriers to learning. Like, why would we create these titles? So I could try and remove barriers to learning, but that because of that first job experience where my boss's boss, never ever allowed anyone to address him as Mr. Malhotra. It was always BJ. That also allowed me to really connect with people who struggle day to day to put food on the table. People, the receptionist, earning a salary, taking home, supporting parents back home. And it allowed me to understand how tough life can be. And just to be able to connect with individuals who were going through struggle, daily struggle, things that I took for granted, wasn't taken for granted by many members of the world. And that job made me realize that. Ironically, Vijay and I stayed in touch. Vijay doesn't live too far from me, and he's retired now and stuff. But I am mentoring his granddaughter,
Oh,
and when she came to me, she's based in the U.S. And when she came to me, the first thing I told her is that I wouldn't be sitting in front of you if it wasn't for your grandfather. Right. And I never forgot that. I'm eternally grateful to my first job and my boss's boss, who was VJ. And I tell him that and make sure he knows. So yeah, that's my first job. Really had a profound effect on me.
how important are early connections like you and BJ?
So, you know, Connections and networking, these are words that are often used in today's workplace, in college environments, even in school environments, right? Make your connections or build your network. I actually don't like these words. Life is about, for me, about relationships, not connections and contacts and network, right? For me, it's about you've got to build a relationship. So my relationship with Vijay is invaluable, right? He was my first boss. And I had many bosses before I started working in the business, but Vijay was my first boss, and he told me what he taught me, and the relationship I have with him is very, very special. And it's through investing time, respecting a conversation, being present whenever you're around that individual. That's how relationships are built. Going to a networking event, exchanging business cards, or these days tapping phones, is not how relationships are built, in my view. So it's really investing that time. And when I say time, when I mean giving attention, right? And life is also about choices, right? You have a finite number of hours in a day. So you've got to decide where you're going to focus. And for me, when it comes to relationships, that's really, for me, it's the attention you give to the conversation you are having that determines your relationship with that individual. So I always encourage students that don't network for the sake of networking. Go out there and build relationships, and don't do it with a purpose. You don't know where life takes you. The one thing we're sure about is the randomness of life. So, and there will be a time that you will possibly call upon this individual due to the relationship you've built. But there may be a time that, maybe your entire life you won't, but guess what? You built a beautiful relationship.
If life is all about choices, how do you figure out how to spend your time?
So it's about priorities. And for me, family has always been my priority. My wife, my kids, my parents, and my brothers. They really are my support system. And I will do whatever in my power to keep those core relationships in place. And then, of course, I must also include my nephews and my nieces, who also mean the world to me. And really, I'm perfectly happy in being in this ecosystem and not even really needing to step out of it. But of course, I have great friends and I value my time with them. We meet for breakfast every few weeks and you have just a great laugh. I wouldn't give that up for anything, right? Just meeting for breakfast and just laughing. As you probably sensed, I enjoy a good laugh. So I enjoy going out and just being a kid and just laughing and talking about silly things. Life doesn't have to be for me all serious. So I do value that. I value that time. I play a little bit of cricket still, and between playing and watching, I again value that. But in terms of my time, I prioritize what's important for the family. I've always said there are two types of people in life. Those that take happiness from things they do, and that's the large part of the world, and those that take happiness when others are happy. And when people ask me what makes you happy, I used to initially get really confused with that question because I actually didn't know what actually made me happy. Uh, but I realized that I'm actually happiest when those around me are happy. So I spend a large part of my day making those around me, both within the family and within the workplace, whether it's my own family members, but even my partners, seeing what makes them happy.
That's very nice. I've read somewhere that you start your day with saying, "How can I help my family today?" Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so when my kids were your age, going through there's obviously as a parent there's a to-do list. I'm sure your dad has one and your mom, and every morning you get to work, and it could be something as simple as, "Hey, Dad, I want a Schengen visa." Right? I want to go to Europe next year type thing, right? And then you've got to fill out the forms and apply for the visa and get the appointment and all the rest, that type of stuff. It could be paying a bill, a tuition fee. It could be, there are to-do items that as a parent you need to do. It could be something as simple as dropping your child off to school. So every morning that I was in Dubai, every single morning, and it could be even if I landed at 5:30 a.m. and my kids were off to school at 6:30 a.m., I would drop my kids to school every single morning. And I remember the last day I dropped my youngest to school. And for him, as you can imagine, just another day, right? Last day of school, okay, bye dad, jumped off the car. But as I drove off, I understood uh, that this was it. This was the last time after 13, 14 years of school drop-offs that I would be able to do this. And it was a slightly emotional moment for me. It was a slightly emotional moment for me. So um, those so time is something that is limited, but you also know time is connected to building memories, and those memories won't come back. And I talked about giving attention and being present, and that's for me that's a work in progress because obviously it's at least for me it's not possible to be present all the time. But I do know that whenever I can and whenever I'm around family, I want to be present and I make a real effort to be present. So in terms of prioritizing family, those are the little things I prioritize.
Are your children very involved in education and school?
Mm, no. So my eldest is working in the Shirawi Group. He works supremely hard. Sometimes wonder how he does it. But he's working all sorts of hours, growing the corporate side of the business. My youngest son is in the midst of an AI startup in New York City, and he just got funded, so he's in a good place. He's in an exciting place. So yeah, they're not doing anything connected to education, at least not yet. And the education journey, as fulfilling as it is a journey not for everyone. You've got to firstly really enjoy being around kids. And most adults, at least when they get to my age, don't want to be around kids, right? They find them annoying and they find them, disturbing. And so you've got to really enjoy it. You've got to enjoy the uncertainties that come not only with the younger ones, but even with the teenage years. You've got to be able to connect to every child, every student's journey. And that's when you really know you're an educator. And again, there's a certain personality for it, right? It's not for everyone. So you kind of know, like when you go out with friends and parents, and the rare event that happens, um, you know that the dad or the mom or that is most likely the educator at heart, the one that is kind of breaks away from the adults and spends more time with the kids, right? That was me, right? So we go to the park, I'd be the one with the kids, right? And I'd be the one playing with the kids and having a great time and playing hide and seek and that's for me, that's the one is the educator in the group.
Yeah. What do you think is the relevance of education in AI, where AI knows everything?
Great question. I think if I were to use three letters to answer that question, it's TBD. Uh, Most of the AI applications you see coming out in today's world are actually connected to the world of education in one way or another. Educators are confused, if I was dead honest, as a fraternity, we're confused because we just don't know how this is going to impact the development. of a child. So I think we're pretty much in agreement that let's keep it out of the early years and I'm talking about specifically about LLMs, but let's keep it out, keep it away from the hands of students till they get to middle school. But then the challenge comes, as the child is developing their writing skills and their reading skills, and do you really want an AI companion sitting alongside them? So when to introduce it, how to introduce it, and to ensure that assessment, which is such a critical feedback component for students, remains authentic, or you at least as an assessor, you know what you are assessing is the student's work, so you can determine where the gaps are and give relevant feedback to the student is still very important. So I'm a little nervous about AI in education. I know AI is here to stay. I know it's not going away anywhere. But I'm really concerned about the development of students, of the students' cognitive abilities, because of the impact of AI. I don't like to call it the threat of AI. AI is here. We can't lock it out of our schools. We can block it from our Wi-Fi systems, but guess what? Students are smart. They log on to their hotspot and they're still able to access AI. I told you I have a kid in so many ways. So we know we can't just lock it out. Now the question is how to bring it in and how to use both the carrot and the stick in order to ensure its effective use. And I think that's yet to be determined, and educators are grappling with this, particularly when it comes to assessment, but also in day-to-day life. And I think in general, people are saying we can use it to determine research questions, to brainstorm, but we don't want to use it to answer questions on an assignment. But we have to be really careful now how we bring that in, and what it's going to take going forward. Now, AI is going to change the workplace, already is, but schools, elementary, primary schools, early year settings, I'd be really careful right now. We really need to see research data. We need to see the impact on the development of the mind, before we really bring it in.
I mean, I think as a student, I become like too reliant on AI. I use ChatGPT a lot because it's more efficient, like with all my work going on.
It is. But my advice to students, and this is moving, right? But is be careful because right now your generation is using ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Perplexity, whatever it is using it as a search tool. And that's where I have a challenge. You can go and ask, search for the exact same thing on a browser, on a Safari or a Chrome, but you choose to go to AI. You choose to go to an LLM. Now, I think the last statistic I read is that when you put a simple search query, like I want to know, like if I want to search about entrepreneur's equation, why should I go to AI? I can just search for it on the internet, right? I don't need to go through an AI. If I go through AI, that query takes about 10 times the amount of data storage as just putting it on the internet, right? So that data gets stored somewhere in a data center somewhere. And to me, that storing of that data is pretty useless, right? Because I could have just gone on the internet and visited your website and be the end of it. When you want to compute or you want to analyze or you want to do a comparative statement of some sort, that's when I would go towards AI. When you need support in making choices and seeing the pluses and minuses, go to AI. But when you're doing a straightforward, hey, what movies are running in the cinema, right? Go to your local cinema website and look it up, right? So what's happened is that AI is taken over search. And that's a little scary for me because it doesn't need to take over search. There's no real added value. If anything, it's actually value destruction because it's not always as accurate as sort of browsing the internet. So I would be again, your generation is, and even mine at this point is just using it as basic search, and I would discourage that for the reasons I've just outlined.
So what about your company, All Shirawi Group? Can you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, it was our two founders, Abdullah Al-Shirawi and Mohan Valrani, started today what is a conglomerate. It's revenue. We revenue over significantly over $1 billion US. We have close to 13,000 employees. We're into a wide variety of fields, very traditional sort of bricks and mortar style industries, many manufacturing, education is now part of it. Um, but really, it's a group that is built upon what I say is sheer hard work, starting from the founders, but then moving on to the second generation. And I would actually preface that with hard work plus unity. I cannot tell you, and this happens all over the world, but you see it so much in the East, where healthy businesses are destroyed because shareholders are not united. And the success of the Al Sharawi Group is built upon the unity of two families, the Al Sharawi family and the Valrani family, and then the unity remains as it's passed on to the second generation and hopefully remain as it's passed on to the third and beyond. So the unity of shareholders is extremely important. And in order to have the unity of shareholders, you need to have the unity of respective families. And that's important too. The group is very successful, not only due to hard work and unity, but also because we have been a massive beneficiary of the city of Dubai and the country of the UAE. I mean, Dubai has gone from a desert town in the 70s to one of the major global cities of the world. We are said in the same breath today as New York, London, Dubai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Tokyo. Never was the case. And in many ways, we've overtaken the cities I've named. Dubai has overtaken them. So we've been a massive beneficiary of the growth of Dubai, of the growth of the UAE as a country. Abu Dhabi also has progress, as have the Northern Emirates. So we've been in the right place, right time, hard work, unity, and then you have a formula for success.
Can you share examples where unity in your company has made you proud?
I mean, just yesterday, right? I was in a board meeting yesterday with members of both families, and it was performance evaluation time where we evaluate our senior executives and determine their compensation. And we debated, discussed, brainstormed, and came up finally with an agreement on reward systems, or at least the reward packages for the financial year that had just completed, and that was magic, right? So when you're united and you're focused and you have a business first philosophy, you know that you have a recipe for success. So just yesterday we had those moments, and those moments, they're not always in business, right? They're sometimes even deeply personal. When a particular member is going through a crisis of some sort, you come to the person's support, and that's important in the context of the Al-Sharawi Group.
What are the key values in your company?
So I know them off by heart. They are excellence, transparency, compassion, honesty, empowerment. And the latest one added is actually flexibility. It used to be discipline. We were, and at least
Why?
we are very disciplined in our approach. I'm the kind of person, you'll laugh, but during COVID, I used to, we were locked in. I used to wear a suit every day, put on my shoes, and go to the next room, dressed in
Why?
a three-piece suit with a tie. Why? Because I wanted to have a disciplined mindset. I still wake up early, still say, no, I'm not going to let this get the better of me. Similarly, what we understood during COVID and beyond COVID is that the incoming generation, in terms of those who are going to work within the group, value flexibility. And I can be as disciplined as I want, but I'm not going to attract the best talent unless I bring in flexibility. So we actually switched, we dropped the discipline value and we switched it to flexibility. We also recently just added learning, one that is very close to my heart, because we believe the organizations that are going to succeed in the future are those that invest in learning.
I mean, on the topic of learning, tell me about the schools you've opened.
Yeah, I can go on for a while. So we've got two schools. We have over 3,000 students, heading towards over 5,000. A few years ago when we started in 2016, COVID hit in 2020. We opened our second school, our second school in 23 or 22, sorry, 23. And I used to say in 2020 after COVID and we came out of COVID, I used to say in 2022, I think I said I'd like 5,000 students in 5 years. We started in 2016 with 70 students, right? And today we have over 3,000. And today the 5,000 is very achievable. Did I ever think that would happen? I actually did. It was a nice target. Sounded good too, 5,000 in 5 years. But we worked and we've been again a beneficiary of the growth of Dubai, but at the same time, we're one of the most successful schools that opened during that time. And it was due to the commitment, I would say, of all the team that was present at that time and that today is taking it forward in so many unique ways. So learning nurture lifelong learning was actually Arcadia's motto. And for us, it was about instilling those life skills in students and preparing them for what was to come beyond school that really, really differentiated us. So yeah, learning was and is a crucial part of our ethos.
I mean, from 70 students to 3,000, how do you think luck played a role in this?
So luck played a role because firstly, Dubai, right? So I had no control over the growth of Dubai. Post-COVID, Dubai's policies were just so, I would say, visionary that everyone who was doing a half decent job benefited. Um, Again, this is leadership of the city. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, our ruler of Dubai, the Prime Minister of the UAE, really leads from the front and is really one of my heroes. And if it wasn't for him, again, I wouldn't be sitting with you today, sitting with you here today, because he's been so instrumental in the growth of Dubai and the growth of the country, the UAE. So luck has played a role because these things happen way beyond my control. Um, Again, taking decisions that required a lot of courage and really putting in the hours. I remember, in the early days with those 70 students belonging roughly to 50 families, I knew every one of those families. I'd be at the door every morning. I'd be welcoming each and every one of them. Every single family got again, being the CEO of the school, got a personal welcome from the CEO. I'd know their kids. I know I'd be teaching them. So really, hard work was important, but it wouldn't have happened without Dubai, without what happened in Dubai.
How did you attract all these students? What set your school apart?
So one of the things was really the focus on entrepreneurship or enterprise through the junior MBA program, which was a homegrown program that I taught. I created the program, I wrote the curriculum, I taught the curriculum, and really that allowed us to really differentiate ourselves. If you ask people today in Dubai that, if you really want to study entrepreneurship from a very young age, which is the school that you would go to? And they say Arcadia, right? We also were the beneficiary, or we are the beneficiary of a top-notch sports program, thanks to our executive principal, who's a former professional athlete, his wife, who's also a former professional athlete. She's an Olympian, and really, we have the top sports program in the city. We have one of the top performing netball teams, top performing football teams, especially in the primary years. And we're very, very proud of our sports program. So we had to find elements within a school curriculum that would allow us to differentiate ourselves. So, enterprise and sport were two of the pillars. We also embed technology. We invested and we took a decision to provide the best technology infrastructure that there is. We sat with Apple Education in the very, very early days with a blank slate and said, look, we want to design a school that has that Apple logo all over. And we want to be known for innovation. And then we worked very closely with Apple Education to build what is really a fine school today.
Were there any challenges cultivating the entrepreneurship spirit?
Yeah, I mean, look, the first premise was that we're not building entrepreneurs. We don't want every single student to become an entrepreneur. What we're doing is building the mindset of entrepreneurs. That mindset consists of things like resilience, being able to identify opportunities, resourcefulness. These are qualities of a successful entrepreneur, and we want to impart that to our students, who then can use these qualities to be successful in any profession they choose. So to give parents an understanding that this wasn't a business program, this was a mindset development program. Really, that was, I would say, one of the challenges. The other was finding a teacher. Couldn't find a teacher, right? So guess what? I stepped forward and said, I'm going to teach the program. And those were very special days because, I taught and I really got to know my students and got to be a better teacher.
Do you think all those qualities are weighed equally?
In terms of the entrepreneurial mindset,
Yes.
uh, uh, yeah, it's tough to put like a percentage on which quality is more important. I think it's so situational, it's so context dependent. I would look, resilience. If there's one that I would say kind of stands out for me, is it's resilience. Because, you know, life throws you curveballs, no matter who you are, no matter what your context. Life throws you curveballs, and you need to be ready to face them. You need to be ready that if they put you, bring you down, you need to know that you can bounce back. And that's really what resilience is, the ability to bounce back. And it's important our students believe that they can always bounce back, no matter where they are, no matter what situation, and no matter what age. There's always an opportunity to bounce back.
If you could do your school again, what would you change?
So I would change the way we started. So we had 70 students, and we understand we're a new school. But in the run up to that, I would have probably been a lot more aggressive in recruiting students than we were. I would have done some more strategic hires from our side in order to recruit more students. Now, there was a benefit to starting small, that small, that it was very personal. But when you invest hundreds of millions in school buildings, you can't run it with 70 students. So for me, I would have been a lot more aggressive in the recruitment of students at the start.
Do you still maintain this personal culture with so many students?
No, so obviously, with 3,000 plus students, it's impossible for me to be that personal. I try and be visible as much as possible, but I've also started this whole mentorship side where I'm now mentoring students all across the UAE, all across the world, actually, of students from Hong Kong to to Kenya, to the United States, to Bombay, students all over the world, and to Dubai, who I mentor, and who even go on to doing great things in university and beyond, and still in touch. I got a message, in fact, this morning from one of my students from 5 years ago and said, "Hey, I need to chat with you. I need some advice on something." Right. So I keep in touch with all of them. And that's how I maintain that personal connection because for me, that's important, right? It's important for me. It's just as important for me as it is for the student. It keeps me, as I said, younger. It keeps me going. It keeps my drive. So for me, that's important.
What do you think's your leadership style?
My leadership style. You know, so obviously I live in a capitalist world, in a capitalist city. I understand how capitalism is, but I like to balance that with a lot of empathy, which sometimes is missing in a capitalist society. So till today, I handwrite thank you cards to employees when they do something special. Um, I think while money is extremely important and being able to be financially sustainable for every organization is critical, but I think organizations have failed when their sole objective is to maximize profit. Um, Long-term sustainability, financial sustainability happens when you carry people with you and when you're able to empathize with their journeys as you grow your business. And that's my leadership style, that being able to understand what every human that works with me is going through. I mean, just this morning, I got someone who works very closely with me said, "Look, I need to take a break next week. Um, and next week's a really important week, right? And we have some events planned." And I was like, "Why do you need to take a break?" And she said, "My sister's graduating. Sorry, not graduating. It's my sister's 21st birthday." And I said, I understand. I'm not happy, but I understand because you're building memories, and these memories won't come back. The day after the 21st birthday is not the 21st birthday. And it's important for me to be able to understand that and be flexible because I know in the world we live in, we're so connected digitally. It's really possible to do most things no matter where you are. And I understand that, I appreciate it, and I know if someone's heart's in the right place, we're good to go.
How do you be flexible and also make sure people don't take advantage of you?
Uh, so I have great belief in the human race. People are generally good people, and people don't like taking advantage of other people. Almost every human I've come across in my life has a side of them that says, I really shouldn't take advantage of this individual. And if I am, I need to somehow pay it forward. And I've always operated with that assumption. Uh, and I've never really been in a context where I felt someone's taken advantage of me. People have taken up my time, they've been eternally grateful, and that gratitude means the world to me. So I've never ever felt that people take advantage of other people, at least not for sustainable periods of time. So I think you can be as flexible as possible, and people will still not take advantage of you. And if they do take a disproportionate amount of time, they will be eternally grateful, and you've made a difference to their life.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to a rapid fire round, which I want you to answer without thinking too hard.
Mhm.
3 words your friends would use to describe you.
Um, Funny, uh, dependable, and focused.
What is one book you would recommend entrepreneurs to read?
Grit by Angela Duckworth.
One subject you would like to learn more about?
Literature, English literature.
What do you enjoy the most about being an entrepreneur?
Um, I enjoy the flexibility that comes with being an entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, thank you, Naveen. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for sticking around till the end. I hope you found this episode valuable. We might think there's no formula for success, but it seems like we're getting closer to cracking it with each conversation. If you have any suggestions on who I should email next, feel free to drop me a message at my email, which will be in the bio. And remember, the insights you've heard today are the very thing that moves the needle in your own entrepreneurial journey. Catch you in the next one.